a lot of people struggle at school, but you kind of went through a lot of altercations and adversities at that time. What were some of the things you were hearing, some of the bullying, some of the racism, the experiences that you had that felt limiting or made it feel like it was easier to give up?
I think for me, school was probably the most traumatizing and most difficult part of my life.
Wow.
I already was being bullied at the age of 6. I think at the time, that particular school, I was probably one of 3 kids of color, and just bigger, stronger, bullying kids were throwing me around a lot of the time. I was always the last picked in when you stand in the playground and you're in the line of when they're picking teams for football, I was always the last one chosen or not even chosen, even if I was better than somebody else. And then the constant jabs, the things that are either thrown at you like bananas, or people that would use the M-word just so relaxed. People calling you half-caste and, just really not knowing where you fit in. That for me was difficult. When you then go into like history class and everything you learn in history, there are no people of color in the history that they were teaching us. So I was thinking, oh, well, where are the people that look like me? And for me, in my school, there was only around 7, maybe 6, 7 black kids out of 1,200 kids. And 3 of us were put outside the headmaster's office all the time. The headmaster just had it out for us, and particularly for me, I would say. So like just juggling all these different emotions that you're feeling. Plus I struggled at school. I didn't find out till I was 16 that I was dyslexic. Fortunately, I came across a teacher that was actually caring and took me down that road and helped me discover a little bit more about myself and how I can better myself through education. But I think that for me was tough. Also, because I was racing every weekend, I would leave on the Thursday night. We would travel, pack up the motorhome. We would travel around the country to race on the weekends. And no one else knew. When I'd go back to school, all the kids have done normal things on the weekend. And I'll come back and say I was racing, and people would be like, "Oh, I've done that before," like at the theme park or something. But no one really knew what my goal was, and they thought maybe it was a joke. You miss a lot of that social interaction. Also, I was put in all the lowest sets at school and told that if you do well, you can progress, and they never ever let me progress, no matter how hard I tried. So I really felt that the system was really up against me, and I was kind of swimming against the tide. But I'm so grateful for that journey, because that's what built me to the person that I am today. But there were a lot of things that I suppressed, because I couldn't go home and say, hey, I didn't feel like I could go home and tell my parents that, these kids kept calling me the N-word today. I got bullied, I got beaten up at school today, or I wasn't able to defend myself. I didn't want my dad to think I was not strong. And so if I had tears, I would hold them back. If I had emotions, it would be in a quiet place. And it wasn't really till I started racing that I was able to channel this emotion that I had into my driving. And it's like when I put this helmet on, Superman was my favorite. I loved how he fought for the people, and I loved how he did the right things, and he was a really inspiring character for me. But again, no superhero was of color, so, but you can still aspire to be someone that's, if they don't look like you, And so I remember going to karate, I remember putting this helmet on in racing, and it felt like it was my cloak, that my superpowers could come out when I was driving. And I was battling with these kids, and I was able to do things that they seemed to not be able to do as well. And that was my love.
Wow. Yeah, it's... Mine was opposite. I was bullied a lot at school as well. I was one of 5 people of color in my primary school. And I was also overweight, and so I was bullied for that. And obviously, my parents are from Indian backgrounds, and so they'd gone through it much worse than I did when they'd moved to England. But the difference was that I would go cry to my mum, and then my mum would come try and save the day in school, and that was the worst. That's so embarrassing. Like your mum's telling the teacher what happened, and then I'm like, oh no, mum, don't do this. And then it's even more embarrassing because the kids pick on you, going, oh, mum came to save you.
Yeah, mummy's boy.
Yeah, mummy's boy. So that was my version of it. I wasn't scared of crying to my mum, but then it had different things. But yeah, that's so hard as a kid when you're going through that. And you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to figure out what confidence is, you don't even know what that means, you feel like not going to school. But then even though you're saying you found it in racing, I mean, racing was similar because you were working class, you're still to this day the only working class black driver to do as successfully as you have. So not only do you have it at school, you also have it in your passion, like in the thing that is your cloak, is your Superman.